The top story this morning, the GST Council set to meet today. The meeting is the first one after Prime Minister Modi promised a simpler GST regime and went on to say that 99% of items will soon be under the 18% tax slab or even below that. The meet is also the first one after the Congress revival in the Hindi heartland. The 31-member council has 14 non-BJP members now after the recently concluded assembly elections. We are given to understand that no big ticket rate cuts are likely to be announced today. So what are the expectations from the council meeting today? Shireen Bhan spoke to MS Mani of Deloitte and tax expert Rohan Shah. Listen in.
Mr. Shah, the complexion of the GST Council will certainly change. The Prime Minister has made it very clear. He's listed the roadmap for where he expects rates to head. Do you believe that we're now looking at a situation where what was originally the idea of the 28% slab being only for sin goods and for luxury items, we're finally going to come down to that?
I would think so, Shireen. I think whatever we are seeing in terms of statements, whether made by the Prime Minister or the Finance Minister, and the buzz that generally I think is emanating from Delhi, 28% will cover only very, very few items. You could call them sin goods, but the coverage will be very limited, and which is what it ought to be. Because I think the greater that we have a move towards the 18%, which in most countries is the sort of mean rate, the better off we will be in terms of having a GST of the type that we originally envisaged.
Okay. Mani, let's look at the revenue implications as well. I mean, items like cement, for instance, are still in the 28% bracket, and that could be a significant revenue hit as far as the government is concerned. Now, so far, we've seen the government edging closer to the 1 lakh crore rupee number, but if you discount the refunds as well as the compensation cess, then it works out to in the 80,000 crore rupee range. So there is an issue with revenue collection. With more rate cuts, how concerned would you be?
Okay, so I think revenues have been under pressure. There are no two views on that. They have been under pressure and they continue to be under pressure. Now, having said that, we also need to understand that in the past, when there have been rate cuts, subsequent to that, we have not seen as sharp a dip in revenue as was anticipated. So possibly what is happening is when there is a rate cut, the level of compliance goes up, the number of people paying tax goes up, and the tax base expands. So overall, in GST from the beginning, I think the theme that the government has been playing out with is that if the rates moderate over a long period of time, the tax base will expand. Here again, when I'm talking of tax base, I'm not talking only of the GST tax base. I'm also talking of the income tax base, because both today are very, very closely interlinked. So the tax base overall has significantly increased after GST was launched. The income tax base of taxpayers has also significantly shot up. So when you look at both together, while there will be some temporary pressures on revenue, over a medium term, I don't think there will be too much of a concern on specific items. What would your expectation be in the 35 items that are still in the 28% bracket? What could move lower? Really speaking, I see the possibility of only few products, having a chance to move lower. Cement obviously would be one. Color television exceeding 20 inches in size is another. Dishwashers and ACs and DSLR cameras and video games would be the other. Because I don't see any possibility of aerated beverages, pan masala, or automobiles or automobile parts moving out. Yeah. Those represent a large number of items in this population that you said. So when we talk of 99%, coming below the 18% bracket, we have to bear in mind that even today already 97% is in that bracket. So it's only moving 2 more percentage. But Mr. Shah, let me come back to you on the simplification aspect of it, because what we're given to understand is that simplified form is unlikely to be rolled out anytime soon, perhaps only in the new financial year. What's the feedback that you're getting from people now, both with respect to things like refunds, with respect to filing? I mean, have things gotten any better? What is it that you would now like the council to take up with the Prime Minister's stated objective of simplification?
I think at a practical level, Shireen, you are finding that, refunds is the one area that people are having really the most challenges with. And that, I think, is to be expected, although nothing impacts sentiment sort of more than the fact that someone who ought to get a refund doesn't get it, especially exporters. What I think you might see, given past record of the council, I think you will potentially see, this audit process, which was sort of to get over by end of year. I think you will see a further period or enhancement in terms of that. I also sense that, in terms of transitional credits, which have been a problem area, I think you will see some greater facilitation in the context of that. And, you were talking revenue and revenue impacts of numbers coming down, but one move that I've been watching for a long time, and I think many people would, is will we finally see some move towards petroleum products, even if it's ATF and even if it's diesel, are we going to see some very clear-cut announcement on that? So procedurally, I think you'll see some relaxation on audit and possibly something in terms of transitional credit. And it would considerably help if they would give much clearer signals to the administrative force, in terms of refunds.
Very quickly, sir, in exactly 30 seconds, Mr. Shah, the political bickering, of course, continuing with the Gabbar Singh tax and the good stupid thought and so on and so forth. But that aside, what would your expectation really be with the representation of the council changing? Do you believe that we could maybe now see momentum on things like petroleum, etc., coming in, or ahead of the elections you expect it to be stalled?
No, I personally think it will come in, not because of the recent political changes, because to its credit, the GST Council has been excellent in terms of, speaking in one voice and voting in one way. So I think it will remain a forum of consensus. I don't think the political equation will change that. But if some of the things which ought to have been done get hastened, I think that's only for the better. And petroleum and inclusion of petroleum, to me, would sort of be one of those.
All right, tax expert Rohan Shah doesn't expect the equation within the GST Council to change after the state election outcomes. Meanwhile, in international news, the US government officials shut down a few hours ago after Democrats and Republicans failed to arrive at a consensus. President Trump wanted $5 billion for the border wall, for which Republican Party failed to whip votes. In a video message posted on Twitter just hours before the shutdown, President Trump said, and I quote, "We are going to have a shutdown. There's nothing we can do about it because we need the Democrats to give us their votes. The shutdown hopefully will not last long," end quote. Senior Democratic Party leader Chuck Schumer said, and I quote, "President Trump has thrown a temper tantrum and now has us careening towards a Trump shutdown over Christmas. You're not getting the wall today, next week, or on the 3rd of January when Democrats take control of the House," end quote. Now, with the government shutdown, along with fears of no trade deal with China in stipulated deadline, US markets nosedived as much as 800 points off highs to end the worst trading week since the 2008 crisis. CNBC's Eric Chemi gets us the lowdown of the trading action on Wall Street.
For CNBC TV18, I'm Eric Chemi. U.S. stocks sliding late in the trading session with the Dow off 414 points, the S&P down 50, and the Nasdaq lower by 195. The U.S. economy grew less than previously estimated in the third quarter. Gross domestic product increased at a 3.4% annualized rate, the Commerce Department said on Friday in its latest reading of third quarter GDP growth. That was slightly down from the 3.5% rate it had estimated in October. Meanwhile, White House advisor Peter Navarro telling a Japanese newspaper that he doubts a U.S.-China agreement will happen in the next 3 months. That helped push stocks to session lows. Navarro was also critical of the Fed's interest rate forecast for 2019. And General Motors has hinted that it could negotiate a way to keep one or more of its plants open. Last month, GM announced plans to halt production at 5 North American plants. But now the company is saying those closings are a matter of negotiation. The automaker has been the target of public outcry since those plans were announced. Although the stock is up about 5% over the past 2 months, that's well outperforming the broader market. That's the action from the U.S. market. Back to you in Mumbai.
It wasn't just stocks on Wall Street that suffered. On Dalal Street as well, markets took a sharp knock and benchmark indices wiped out gains for the entire week. Nifty tumbled 200 points to end below the 200-day moving average, barely holding on to the 10,750 mark. Sensex lost 700 points. Meanwhile, on Mint Street, rupee weakened versus the US dollar, ending at 71.15, rising a sharp 2%. Weakness was seen as dollar gathered strength versus a basket of major currencies. Shifting focus to the aviation sector now, Jet Airways has got a fresh lease of life. CNBC TV18 learns that the Jet Airways board is likely to have cleared soft loan guarantee of $150 million. We learned that Etihad will stand as the guarantor. Kritika Saxena joins us with the details now. Kritika, what are your sources telling you?
Well, the Jet Airways board met yesterday to discuss the possibility of fundraising, of consolidation, of cost-cutting measures. So they were largely meeting to take stock of the situation at present, but they did clear one point. Now, Jet Airways board has cleared bringing on Etihad as a guarantor to bring in fresh loans. What does that mean? Jet Airways is going to get a fresh soft loan of about $150 million, but Etihad is going to be the guarantor here. So at a future date, if there was a point where Jet Airways is unable to pay this, Etihad stands as the guarantor and they will have to foot the bill if there was a situation that were to arise. Now, $150 million is the amount that they're looking at. Etihad has spoken to 2 foreign banks and is likely to bring in at least 2 banks to fund this. We understand that now that the formal nod of the board has come in, they will start the process, the due diligence will begin, and they hope to conclude this in the next coming weeks. So that's as far as the soft loan guarantee is concerned. The other point is the equity infusion. So far, the talks have slowed down with Etihad, but they are continuing. So 2 points over here. One is the local partner coming in. There seems to be a little bit of a hiccup there. 2 local partners that Etihad had identified have backed off. Second is who is going to be in control. What happens when the deal actually goes through? The talks with Tata Group have been slow for a long time. They have discussed it in the board and discussed if they should perhaps call it off altogether or delay it or go back to the drawing board. And as far as the cost-cutting measures are concerned, $40 million saved so far, and they want to continue the cost-cutting measures going forward.
Critical story we are tracking. The Ministry of Home Affairs issued a notification giving 10 government agencies sweeping powers to spy on any computer in the country. These agencies include the Intelligence Bureau, Narcotics Control Bureau, Enforcement Directorate and CBI, among others. According to the notification, the subscriber or service provider or any person in charge of the computer resource is bound to extend all facilities and technical assistance to the agencies. Failing this, they can face 7 years in jail and a fine. Parikshit Luthra is here with all the details. Parikshit, what does this mean and what are the reactions coming in from the opposition?
Well, we're looking at very angry reactions coming in from the opposition. We've seen the likes of Ahmed Patel, P. Chidambaram, Asaduddin Owaisi, Mamata Banerjee all speaking out and asking if this government wants to turn India into a surveillance state. Chidambaram even went to the extent of calling it an Orwellian state. Having said that, the government is trying to play down this controversy. Last night, there was a notification from the Ministry of Home Affairs which empowered 10 intelligence agencies, 10 central agencies to intercept and monitor and decrypt any kind of information being stored or transmitted from any computer in the country. So this was the notification that really sent alarm bells going. Today, after coming under pressure from the opposition, the government has come out with a series of notifications, series of clarifications saying that this is nothing untoward has really happened. This is same as it was earlier. The Ministry of Home Affairs still remains a nodal ministry and its approval would be needed in every individual case. It does not give sweeping powers to anyone. So this is the clarification coming in. But the whole question is, if it was so simple, why didn't the government explain it better in the first place?
माननीय सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने भी अपना निर्णय दिया है कि जो राइट टू प्राइवेसी है, निजता का अधिकार है, वो मूल अधिकार है, फंडामेंटल राइट है। देश की 9 एजेंसीज को और दिल्ली पुलिस को एक स्वीपिंग पावर दे दी गई है एक एग्जीक्यूटिव ऑर्डर से कि वो किसी का भी हर जानकारी, हर टेलीफोन, हर कंप्यूटर उसको इंटरसेप्ट करे, उसको मॉनिटर करे। कृपया अपनी बात संक्षिप्त में रखिए। एक मिनट, ये भारत को पुलिस स्टेट बन जाएगी, ये स्वीकार्य नहीं है।
पिछले 18 वर्ष पहले इंफॉर्मेशन टेक्नोलॉजी एक्ट आया। उसके कानून जब आनंद शर्मा जी मंत्री थे तो 2009 में यूपीए सरकार ने बनाए कि कौन सी एजेंसीज होंगी जिनको ऑथराइज किया जाएगा। कोई भी व्यक्ति नहीं कर सकता, किसी भी फोन या कंप्यूटर इंस्ट्रूमेंट को नहीं कर सकता जिसका संबंध नेशनल सिक्योरिटी, पब्लिक ऑर्डर, इंटीग्रिटी ऑफ इंडिया के साथ खिलवाड़ या खतरे का है, तो ये ऑथराइज एजेंसीज हैं। तो तब से लेकर जब से एक्ट बना, these orders of authorization are repeated from time to time। 20 दिसंबर को वही ऑर्डर रिपीट हुआ है जो 2009 से आपकी सरकार के समय से आज तक चला रहा था।
ISIS is recruiting young gullible Indians through radical platform on their internet. Should all this be allowed to go scot-free, or should unauthorized people should allow to intercept? No. Now a structured notification have been issued by defined Government of India authorities who have to undertake this task only with the approval of Home Secretary for the sake of India.
Big debate on the latest government notification. But it's time now for our Rewind 2018 special as the world marked the 10th anniversary of the collapse of Lehman Brothers and the start of the global financial crisis of 2008. A new crisis emerged in India. Infrastructure finance company IL&FS defaulted on payments to lenders and triggered a panic in the Indian financial markets. CNBC TV18's Timsy Jaipuria and Yash Jain recount the fallout.
The 1st of October 2018 will not be soon forgotten by anyone tracking the Indian financial markets. On that day, the Ministry of Corporate Affairs moved the NCLT seeking to supersede the Board of Infrastructure Leasing and Financial Services, or the IL&FS Group, one of the most trusted names in the financial services and infrastructure space.
The Corporate Affairs Ministry's move took many by surprise, but it was not a decision taken overnight. The trouble for IL&FS began almost a month earlier on 4th of September when it came to light that IL&FS had defaulted on a short-term loan of 1,000 crore rupees taken from SIDBI. At the same time, a subsidiary of IL&FS also defaulted on a 500 crore rupee loan taken from the Development Finance Company.
This sent shockwaves through mutual fund houses and brokerages which cumulatively held IL&FS bonds worth over 11 lakh crore rupees. Shockwaves because IL&FS enjoyed a credit rating of AA+. Ratings agencies jumped to correct their assessments. Pointed out that apart from the liquidity pressure the company was facing, it was also laboring under a debt burden that had doubled in the last 4 years between 2014 and 2018 and stood in excess of 91,000 crore rupees. Over 57,000 crores of this was owed to public sector banks. IL&FS and its subsidiaries continue to rack up defaults both on debt and interest payments.
We feel confident, based on the kind of assets we have created, that we should be able to service much of the creditors that we have taken money from to build these assets.
The government, however, was not waiting to see how that plan played out. Armed with an order to supersede the IL&FS board, it nominated a brand new 6-member board led by Uday Kotak, who was elected chairman.
With a view to preserve value, the board will take necessary steps with respect to the company and its subsidiaries, joint ventures and associates.
It is quite possible that some of the units of IL&FS can actually be sold as going concerns.
Okay.
But that may be a few.
Okay.
In many cases it could be an asset sale, in some cases it could be a slump sale, and in some cases it could be just winding up.
The MCA meanwhile ordered the SFIO to see if any fraud had been committed at the IL&FS group. On the 3rd of December, the SFIO's interim report to NCLT alleged that IL&FS executives, including former chairman Ravi Parthasarathi, window-dressed financials.
The problem did not end with IL&FS books. defaults by IL&FS and its various group companies led to a massive sell-off in the shares of various housing finance as well as non-banking financial companies, opening doors to a major crisis in the Indian banking system and creating ripple effects through the Indian economy. Now, as the calendar year turns to 2019, the new management at the IL&FS group will have the task to draw out a resolution plan for the group, but the going looks tough as it still struggles to assess the assets and liabilities of the group.